We are recording on Tuesday, September 26th, 2023 at 4:37 p.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Richard Striner to talk about Ike in Love and War, about President Eisenhower. And I started actually keeping track of the number of books I read starting around 2 years ago, just to kind of, I don't know, just for giggles. And I've read, my goal is to read one a week for 2 years, and I've superseded that, and I've read about 120 books in 2 years. And uh in terms of historical books, because I do all nonfiction. In terms of histories, this is definitely one of the easier reads. And that, to me, like, I'm not that, I'm not that, I guess, I don't know, snobby about it. If a book's dense, that's fine, you know. To me, I look at, I work, I've been lifting weights every day for 20 years. So to me, a lot of times, you know, even if I don't want to do something, I'll do it because I'm like, there's a value to gain from it. You know, some sort of, no, I'm reading a book on Woodrow Wilson right now, and it's kind of dense, it's kind of dry, but I didn't know anything about Woodrow Wilson. So I was like, it might not be enjoyable, but I'm gonna knock it out because I want to have this knowledge in my head.
Well, I
And
wrote a book about Wilson as a wartime leader, tearing him to pieces. You might like
okay,
that
I will
better.
check it out next. The one I'm reading right now, I think it's just called Wilson, and it's kind of blowing smoke up his ass, but whatever. I'll say all that to say this: this is an incredible book about Eisenhower. This is legitimately, I'd say that hand on my heart. This is an incredible book about Eisenhower, just in terms of kind of the cunningness behind the smile, the knowing when to shut up. You can kind of
Oh,
see
yes.
the evolution of him learning when to check his ego and understand that he can play his poker chips. But I'll stop fanboying. Mr. Striner, could you please introduce yourself and tell my audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just jump into it.
All right. I'm Richard Striner. I'm a historian, civic activist, writer. I taught history at a small liberal arts college in Maryland for 30 years, Washington College. Before that, I organized and led a historic preservation group in greater Washington, D.C. And since I retired from teaching in 2019, I'm working on historic preservation again. But I've been writing books for a long time now. I've written over a dozen. I've lost count, really. I love to write. I'm curious about a great many things. I've written all kinds of books. A while ago, you were saying that your own taste in books is flexible. You take them on their merits. If it's an easy read, fine. If it's a dense read, well, that depends. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's the way I am too. There are all kinds of books with all sorts of uses, all sorts of purposes, and all sorts of methods on the part of their writers. And in order to become as learned as I have sought to be, I've had to discipline myself to go through some very dense books, and on one level it was not enjoyable, but on other levels it was because I was achieving a goal and I was learning a lot. My books vary in their nature. I chose history and I promise I'll stop talking momentarily, but you push the button. I chose history precisely because I have a curious mind. And of all the disciplines, it seemed to me that history would potentially offer me the most freedom to study and write about and teach about anything that interested me, if I could get away with it, if I had the nerve
Hmm.
to do it. Most historians don't. I do. And I've had a wonderful time doing it. So I've written books on political history, presidential history, obviously, film history, economic history, art history. I wrote a book recently on spirituality for the independent thinker, because that's what I am, very independent. And it explores history of philosophy, history of science. It is not an easy read. Because I sought to be diligent and write for a sophisticated audience, very sophisticated. It's not for everyone. The first sentence of the book says that. But this book, Ike in Love and War, I really wanted to enjoy myself and write for a very broad audience. I wanted
Hmm.
my readers to enjoy themselves too. And so I wrote in a style that was deliberately meant to go quickly,
Hmm.
crisp, fast flowing sentences. And there are ways, if you've written long enough, you can adopt different kinds of styles.
Sure.
This was the one I adopted for this book.
Hmm. And it works and it's noticeable. So I didn't know obviously that you did any of that, but that was my first candid thought, was very digestible. And I mean, you kind of,
Well, I'll give you a tip if you're
all right.
interested. For me, and every writer writes differently, different style, different method. But for me, when I want to write like this, I never, of course, settle for the first draft. I
Mhm.
go over it and over it, polishing it. And to polish it, it's a matter of arranging a rhythm. That's what it comes down to. A fast flowing rhythm without too many syllables, and it's got
Mm.
to flow. And you can't do that in a day. You have to go back to it, over a span of days. But once you get in stride, the work goes pretty quickly.
Mm. Wasn't it Steve Jobs that said simplicity is often the most complex thing to boil something down? So, right. But right, it's to the someone looks at it, you go, what's the, oh, he makes it look so easy. Right. I mean, I can't play sport for my life, but you see a truly talented point guard and the way they just move up and down the court, you're like, I could do that. And then, you pick up a basketball, you trip and break your ankle. But
Well, it's always a balance between discipline and method on the one side, and spontaneity, flexibility, and fun on the other side. And
hmm.
and it works out right. They counterbalance each other, and it becomes dynamic.
Well, it's as I was telling you before this. I mean, so this is an episode obviously with an author yourself. So there's preparation to do. You read the book. And then there are some generalities that I do for every show. And it's 8 hours of sleep, non-negotiable. We hit the gym, tough workout, meditation. I meditate for about 30 minutes a day. And then it's my ritual is, yeah, comb my hair over, brush my teeth, shave, and I come in and do the show. And in some ways it's very rigid. That is my routine. I have to have that. But once you come into the podcast, you're kind of establishing a canvas in that you're awake, you're caffeinated, you're hydrated, you worked out, you did some push-ups, you got to go and you feel clean, you feel ready to go. But on the other hand, like, I'm not coming into this with a list of bullet points about Eisenhower. It's more
Good.
so I read it and I'm awake. And then you
I
just
think
come
we're
in
in
and go,
roughly the same mental state.
yeah, yeah. So just come in and then with it, you kind of wing it. And it's in a weird way. I mean, you look at Eisenhower and you look at him being the logistics wizard, and in many ways, that's what he did. Is he was constantly prepared for, I think you said, systems analysis, systems of systems, yet it wasn't always applicable. And then next thing you know, it's you can't predict Operation Overlord, and he's putting together D-Day. He's putting together 1,000,000 men, talking about the moons and the tides, and we got to fake them here and have Patton there. And then you also go,
Right.
then there's also the diplomacy part, right? Where you might not think about that in the military level. You always think of the hard jaw, just, cigar chomping military stereotype. But he also understands that there are multiple nations involved. And at that
Yes.
highest level, there is ass kissing. They want their guys there. It is France. Like, they want their guy. And we might not think about that when you think about maybe the opening scenes of Saving Private Ryan, but that is what goes on at that highest level.
Yes.
Do you
Well, he
guys want
was
access?
a
Yeah.
master of many arts,
Yeah.
and he learned those arts through experience over time. He did have the kind of, well, I would call it an architectonic mind that can
Hmm.
relate parts to the whole. Hence, he was a master of logistics, but life is messy. His life was very messy, and because of the fast pace with which his life played out, he didn't have the luxury of doing things in an optimal manner from the standpoint of systems analysis. It was a sort of harem scarum, put it together as you go, make it up as you go along
Hmm.
type of thing. Now, that's on the more cerebral level. As you know, having read the book, one of the themes that became particularly interesting to me, and I didn't know how much this would be true until I started writing the book and worked through the material, and then it just jumped up and out at me. His emotional development.
Hmm.
We're all full of volatile, conflicting emotions. He certainly was. And one of the really interesting stories of his life is the way his emotional development evolved, the way his emotional self-awareness had to evolve, because for many years it seems to me he was not very self-aware in terms of what was really going on way down deep. Some people
Mhm.
become more aware of that than others. It came to him late. And then, well, there are other things. I think I've said enough on that topic for now. I trust we'll talk some more about that later if you want to.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, we can wing it any which way. It's, I mean, right from the loss of his son, it's you see the way that, what did he say when he found out she's pregnant, Mamie's pregnant? He's like, you could like knock me over with a
Knock me
breath.
over with a feather.
And
Yeah.
and you're reading this and you're like, that's the guy that's like ramrod straight talking to soldiers right before D-Day, like, hey, you're about to go kill the Nazi war machine,
Well,
him and old blood and guts, and then it's like,
knock me
oh
over with a feather
yeah.
was a common slang term.
Oh, I know, but
In,
nonetheless, it still
yeah.
takes you. No, I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, 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 of course not. It's
He's the
interesting.
loving father that he didn't get from his dad. It's
Yes,
but it's
that's the
refreshing
way.
in a cute, wholesome manner, if that can be said about a 5-star general.
Well, of course, he wasn't a five-star general yet.
Yeah.
He was just well, let me see, 1920, just a major, I believe. But uh, point is, your point about the first child, yes, he wanted to be the kind of loving father that his father had not been to him.
Hmm.
And then the poor little kid gets sick and dies at age 3. And his second child, the second son, the surviving son, John Eisenhower,
Hmm.
the father-son relationship did not play out that way. Uh,
Hmm.
very interesting, very suggestive. Um, please go on. I'll just start talking and won't stop.
No, no, no. That's what. No, no. That's dude. No, go for it. Don't think about how much you're talking. Just let it. You gotta let the rants come naturally. If you find yourself, I'll go on for 10 minutes yelling and get red in the face. You just gotta let it flow. But I mean, the entire thing, right? Is you can kind of, which I guess is really what we're all doing. But you can kind of see in his mind the entire thing is diplomacy, right? It's almost like you could subconsciously say like showed too much love, and then obviously it's not rational, and then the baby dies, versus the next one it's like you got to be a little more stern, withhold a little more love, and mom's the pacifist, and it's but he's got to be tough. Dad was tough, and you can kind of see that just evolving throughout the years to you know with his driver, with May May, and the entire thing is just almost his whole life is just this weird game of diplomacy, whether it's with
Well,
his alleged lover, or whether it's with FDR and MacArthur. The whole thing
well,
is just this
he
weird shell
developed a
game.
gift. He developed a gift for diplomacy. He had an innate gift for strategy. And the statements you just made are all quite right up to a point. They suggest rational calculation, and he was quite capable of that. But at the same time, his life um, played out in a way that just bounced him around from one, out of control feeling to another. He was often the plaything of his
Mm,
feelings, and to some extent he knew that, especially with the terrible temper he
mm,
inherited from his dad, and he sought all his life to develop control over that. He never fully succeeded, but he got better. But other emotions, um, it's it was my conclusion that he really did not come to the point of true self-mastery in terms of understanding his emotions and deciding on a wise method for managing them and translating them into the calculated actions that he wanted. He didn't really come to that until his White House years.
mm,
It was a painful process of groping toward it. And if it hadn't been for the actions of others, those people who pushed him, as it were, kicking and screaming to his presidential destiny, he might never have achieved it. He might have become just a miserable, cranky old man
mm,
doing God knows what.
mm,
There are so many might have beens in every life, so many might have beens in his life, not least of all the luck that put him so often in the right place in the right time to have his career and life advance through a one-of-a-kind opportunity that came quickly, and would have to be either seized or not. That's the way all of our lives are, to some extent or other. That's the drama of living a life.
Well, it's the right. It's the quote: "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." Or a more simplistic way to think about it is opening a safe. You have to constantly be applying just the right amount until you feel the pressure, and then right. But if you're not applying the pressure,
if you're sufficiently self-aware and intelligent to do that. I mean, a lot of people get lucky breaks, and they're frankly too unaware, shall we say. There are other terms for it, to even realize that they're getting a lucky break. And so the moment passes and nothing happens. It is an interplay between, your own intentions, your own personality, and the circumstances of your life.
well, that's what I'm implying, is that I'm not sure if he was luckier than anyone else, so much as he just had a head. Again, to put it nicely, he had a head on his shoulders. Whereas we might all constantly be walking in and out of these alignments of planets, and we look back at Ike and we go, "Hey, they just kept falling in his lap," and they might be falling in all of our laps. It's just that a lot
That's
of us
what
are
I'm
too
saying.
stupid. Yeah, a lot of us are too stupid.
Well, I wasn't going to use the term
I
stupid.
will. A lot of us are too dumb to figure it out when it's knocking
Since
on
you
the
hit
front
me a
door.
nice slow one right over home plate, I'll
Yeah,
swing it. That's right.
exactly. Exactly. It's not yeah,
Have a head
exactly.
on his shoulders. He's a very smart man, but at times, because of his emotional state, he was a very confused man. Smart and yet confused, one at the same time.
Yeah.
Until later on. And later on, I think the confusion diminished. But in place of this particular duality, if you will, there was the interplay between supreme fulfillment, being the leader of the free world, having the opportunity to make consummate use of his powers, and the huge amount of sadness this man was carrying with him. And there was no, real cure for that at that point in his life. Hence one of the themes of my subtitle. He made sacrifices, painful ones, tragic ones. He made his choices and he lived with them, and the result was what it was, a life that is so inspiring, but also in some ways so goddamn sad. It's a very tragic story because of some of the things that happened to him, some of the choices that he felt he had to make and did.
Well, I think sometimes all you can do is take what you have and try to, like I remember growing up and me and my three brothers and being little kids, and when we'd go rent a place for the summer, and my parents would always make us on the last day, we just have to scrub whatever cabin we had rented, vacuum, I mean, like spring cleaning shit. And we'd be like 7 and we'd be like, why are we
Tidy
doing
things
this?
up.
Well, no, they would always say, leave it better than you found it. Just
I
the
think
end, right?
I think they were right. I like that myself.
Well, and I kind of look at Eisenhower like that. And well, I mean, I look at myself. Anyone that listens to this podcast has heard the story a million times, so I'll make it short. I graduated college. I got into medical school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And a couple months after I graduated, my older brother committed suicide.
Oh, that's
Right.
tough.
And it threw me down a spiral of depression and existential despair that it's been almost a decade and it's still hard to put into words. My logic is I don't know if I'll ever completely come to terms with what happened or make peace with what happened or find love or fulfillment. I mean, pretty cool. At 33, I get to do my own podcast for a living. It's pretty cool. But am I ever going to reach true fulfillment? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. My logic is if I can, in between, talking to authors about Eisenhower and doctors about this, if I can every once in a while use the platform I have to draw attention to mental health and the importance of dropping the masculine shield and talking about how we feel, which is the antithesis to modern masculinity, then maybe, just maybe, on some percentage level, I can move the needle towards making life a little better for someone else who might be on the verge of suicide before I die, hopefully at a ripe old age.
I think that is a wonderful life theme.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I mean it. I think you and I have a great deal in common. Um, our lives are obviously different in their specifics, but I'll give you a comparable
Sure.
situation in my own life. On November 22nd, 1963, on my 13th birthday, President Kennedy got blown away.
Hmm.
I've never gotten over it.
Hmm.
I have never gotten over it. Um, you whatever your politics are, whatever your policy views are, Kennedy was an extremely charming man.
Yeah.
His press conferences by 1962 were feel-good TV entertainment.
Camelot.
Right. Well, he had a marvelous mind, and suddenly that's it. This inscrutable wretch just blows him away. And as I say, I've never gotten over, but in my own emotional development, I came to some conclusions quickly that have carried over through the years. I was stunned by the realization of how cruel the universe can be, of
Hmm.
how fragile life is, how quickly everything can be taken.
Hmm.
And I decided, uh, I don't mean to imply that I would go on to lead a humorless life, far from it. But I decided I will lead an aware life. I will track myself down the years. I will not waste time
Hmm.
in ways that are pointless and idle. I relax, I have fun. That's all a
Sure.
part of a sane life. But I would be honest with myself, ask myself, what is it you really think you want to do? And then begin to try to do that,
Hmm.
and track yourself through life. Make your dreams the good ones, of course, the benign ones, not the sinister ones. Make your good dreams come true. You won't be able to succeed all the time, but when you reach old age, if you live that long, I told myself, you want to be able to look back and say, I left nothing untried.
Hmm.
Didn't waste time. I left nothing untried. And you know what? I'm 72 right now. People tell me I don't look that way. You know why? I think because I've lived that life. I
Hmm.
have left nothing undone. I've done a huge amount. Uh, I've experienced sadness, tragedy, loss. Not going to, you know,
Sure.
uh, not going to just melt all over you with those revelations. But what I
Sure.
am going to do is say that notwithstanding it all, I become stronger and stronger and more fun loving and happier. And I'm just having the time of my life at age 72. I feel great. Um, and I think my appearance uh, may be connected with that. Now, I have had a huge amount of stress in my life. As I say, I'm not going to go into those details.
Sure.
I also believe that that was connected to the sudden shocking onset of stage 2 cancer 8 years ago when I was 65, just like that. Uh, no identifiable carcinogen, no warning. Um, and that concentrates the mind. An experience like that.
Hmm.
My life was obviously saved. I went through chemo, radical surgery, the works at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. Thank God a hospital
Hmm.
of that caliber was nearby.
Yeah.
And I needed psychological therapy afterward, not least of all because I was yanked back after the surgery with all kinds of lovely complications like sepsis.
Hmm.
That can lead to PTSD, which I believe I had for a brief time. Therapist helped me right out of it, a very clever lady. And then we go on stronger. Life is, it's always this kind of an emotional drama. And I'm very glad to hear that you are so interested in psychology and being self-aware. That's the way I am too. And that's why it's very nice to be able to talk about Eisenhower with you.
Well, absolutely. And in terms of the not letting anything, not leaving any stone unturned, of course, and I have to remind myself of it too. Got to take time off. You got to relax. I mean, when I say I have OCD, I mean like clinical OCD. I had to do therapy for a while because I work so hard. But even now, I mean, I wake up on
I
any
went
given,
through I went through 5 years of psychoanalysis in my
yeah,
30s.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned witch doctor, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Beating the
telling you,
spirits
man.
out of you. Oh yeah.
Well, it was amazing how liberating and empowering. Slow process, very slow.
Painful.
But the old methods in the hands of a real witch doctor, you know, it worked, made a new
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
But the point is so obviously we're doing this podcast, but I read books for authors that are dead. But regardless, on any given, what's today, Tuesday, I still wake up every morning, go to the, I don't listen to music at the gym. I listen to an audiobook on 2x speed. And it's because I don't want to waste any time. Doesn't mean don't have fun. Doesn't mean don't take an evening off,
We're
whatever.
so much alike. It would be great to drop down to the neighborhood bar and have a good stiff drink with you. Where the hell do you live anyway?
I'm in Portland, Maine. I was actually in Maryland for 5 years though. I was in Ocean City and then in Salisbury. I was there for five
Well,
years.
I'm just south of Baltimore. Look, if you come down this way again, look me up and we'll get together. That would
We'll go hit up the bar and start telling strangers about Ike. We'll get shit faced and start talking about Ike. We'll buy out the bar. We'll be like, "Do you even know what Operation Overlord was?" Just people get the cops called on us.
I can hold my liquor pretty well. So
I'm Irish, so I don't have a choice. I can. But my point of what we're both talking about, though, of living it up, not leaving anything unturned. And when you think about maybe he never figured out all of his emotions, what I think he did do in terms of even just whether it's his tank preparations, learning about the new all-terrain combat vehicles, or learning about, not letting an economy slip back into depression, or just kind of all these things. He took maybe he didn't figure out who he was really in love with. Maybe he didn't figure out, what was that experience with my dad, and did I reflect it upon my own? What he was a logistician. And what he did do, a great book is Raven Rock by Garrett Graff, his czar system, his post-thermonuclear Armageddon system of how to rebuild an economy after a thermonuclear holocaust that would put the death toll of World War II to shame. And the levels of...
Eisenhower went through those exercises in 56 and 7.
Oh, I know. And the number of redundancies he'd put in, and go to Mount Weather and sign mock drafts, and he'd have Dulles and he'd have Angleton and they'd be going through all these things. My point is maybe he never reached the level of fulfillment or figuring out his emotions that he wanted to. But what he did do is he took what he was able to do, for me, talking about mental health, for you, writing books. What he did do was he put together this system that truly allowed the free world to thrive.
Yes.
And all the way only his mind could. So in a sense, maybe he never figured out what was going on deep inside, but he put together a world that maybe in a parallel universe without Eisenhower, we would have succumbed to nuclear war.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So if he survived Western civilization, it's not that ridiculous to say.
No, it is not ridiculous at all.
Every life under that survivable Western civilization, in a sense, owes it to Eisenhower. So what he did is he passed on what he could do as a logistics wizard.
Well, I think in a very short span of time, something comparable happened with Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They made their impact.
And something comparable on a much larger scale happened with the way that FDR was able to get an isolationist America step by step, brought
Fortress
up
America to a global,
because the Axis could have won.
Absolutely.
The Axis could have won very easily, especially if Hitler had not made a couple of damn fool mistakes. Thank God he did.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear all these conspiracy theories about, Pearl Harbor being a dastardly plot that FDR knew there were warnings. Well, of course, there were warnings. And George Marshall sent out, and Admiral Stark, Chief of Naval Operations, they sent out alerts in the 3 weeks before Pearl Harbor. Expect possible aggressive moves from Japan. It could happen anywhere. Was FDR looking for an incident to bring the United States into the war? Oh, most definitely he was. But it was Nazi Germany that was the bigger threat, especially since the Nazis were looking into nuclear science.
Vision,
had no clue about that. FDR wanted an incident in the Atlantic, not the Pacific. an incident in the Pacific was the last thing in the world he wanted, because that depended upon Hitler honoring the Axis Pact, you see.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't have to.
yeah.
If Hitler betrayed Japan the way he betrayed, Stalin after
And
signing
Barbarossa, yeah.
Hitler would break any pact
Yeah,
he wished. It was a terrible mistake for him to honor the Axis Pact, because if he hadn't, FDR in America would have been stuck with a one-front war in the Pacific, you see.
yeah.
Then Hitler might have been very well poised to push through in 42 and 43. How could FDR have calculated or manipulated that? Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Well,
So it's things are much more complicated, well, often, than these simple-minded, conspiracy simpletons like to make out. They're incapable of understanding how complex life can be. That's just not their experience of life, so they're terrible people to listen to.
well, it's pareidolia, right? I think that's the term, seeing faces where they don't exist. It's a common sign. Birds are seeing faces in clouds or seeing them in rock formations, and it can
Well,
be
delusions,
artistic.
hallucination. It can be artistic, sure. It can also be hallucinatory and
And that's what I
pathological.
mean. That's what I mean. So it's very easy to look back in history, and it's all neatly bookmarked. World War One ended, and then there was Woodrow Wilson and the Great Depression and FDR and Pearl, and we just have these chapter marks because it's been 80
Oh, it
years.
could have been radically different,
Exactly. That's my
every
point. Is
second of every day.
That's my
A
point.
completely different future. Yeah, it could have been.
I mean, Joe Kennedy should have been president had he not died blowing up the V3.
Right.
Wholly different world. It's a wholly different world. So that's what I mean is when I look back and they go, oh, FDR knew. Well, it's very easy and bookmarked to go, oh, he knew. But if it wasn't Pearl Harbor, it would have been something else. I mean, Nazi saboteurs made it to New York City where
They
there was
did.
that deep bunker under, I think, Penn Station that controlled the rail lines of the entire East Coast. And if you were seen down there, you're to be shot on sight. Two
Mhm.
Nazi saboteurs made it down there and they were
Yeah.
executed. That
Yeah,
could have been our Pearl Harbor.
that's right.
So yeah, no, I'm not on board with the idea. It's FDR knew. No, it's we're looking back and it's very easy and lined up, but it's the fog of right now. No one knows what the next 10 years holds. No one
No
has
one
any idea.
your holds. That's what's
No.
so particularly frightening right now.
But that's not right now. That's all of history. Look at the 2 years leading up to 9/11. You can read about every FBI and CIA and DIA and NRO report, terrorist chatter, and any day now. But they're saying any day now for 900 days. At a certain point, you go, hey, tell me when something happens.
Well, back in the 90s, and I wrote about this in a book in 2010 called Lincoln's Way, but back in the Bill Clinton presidency, I was thinking to myself, yeah, there is something out there waiting to smack us.
Yeah.
And there is so much lazy complacency, particularly in the worlds of ideology, left and right, the ones that became prevalent. Remember that silly book, The End of History? I forget the author in the early night. End of History, my you know what. Uh, you know, um, the missed opportunity with Gorbachev,
Mm,
the window of opportunity for George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton to offer a Marshall Plan to
yeah.
Gorbachev.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't even think of it. Why? Oh, gotta balance the budget. That's why. Oh, you do you? Well, you let one of the tipping points of history just go straight past you, not even noticing it. You imbeciles, and as far as foreign terrorism goes, the 90s, was such an age of drift and illusion. Terrible. So the 9/11 didn't surprise me one bit. If it
Mm,
hadn't been that, it would have been something else.
mm. It absolutely would have. It's so it's the same idea if we're looking back onto what could have happened and who knew what. But I think more than likely it's it's probably something where it's you look at Operation Overlord, and you talk about how afterwards they said, well, wasn't that the a lot of the bombers overshot and they almost had to pull back on Omaha, and this had the storm been somewhat different, and but overall we look back at it and we go, yeah, no, stunning success, because in the reality of war, 10%, that's 10% more than zero. So
Well,
any
yeah.
success, any
Well,
reasonable level of success is
a
stunning.
great deal of the time. I mean, you can figure the odds and be pretty much on target with regard to the way things appear based upon the information you can get.
Hmm.
But it's still a crapshoot for
Hmm.
reasons you either could or could not predict in a million years. You finally have to just take a chance, which
Yeah.
is exactly why Eisenhower composed that failure message on June 5th, 1944, because so many things could have gone wrong. So many things, faulty intelligence as to Nazi U-boat activity in the English Channel. I mean, there were lots of variables. He just had to take the chance, knowing that it could fail, and that he decided that it would be best for him to prepare himself to take the responsibility.
Sure. And I mean, if we want to talk about chance, I mean, he and Patton literally almost got their heads taken off right after World War One. That
With the
tank
tank
tread.
at Camp Culp, that's right.
We would never know Eisenhower and Patton. You might look it up in a really surgical book on World War One at honorable actions by soldiers. You'd be like, George S. Patton, won this interesting factoid that you'd see on like a fortune cookie or something.
Sure.
But instead, now we know Old Blood and Guts and Dwight Eisenhower, right? So there you go, and the whole chance just really being an absolute crapshoot. But even then, I think that's maybe something that I think he was born for the position he got into in terms of preparation meeting opportunity. I really
Yeah.
do. I mean, my favorite thing to read about in Eisenhower is his presidency, is the nuclear war. I'm not as concerned about domestic politics and so much as I just think the entire nuclear bunker system and continuity of government and redundancy operations and deterrence. I think that's so wildly fascinating, and it seems like he was born for that position, and that he put in survival plans for all of
Yes.
Western civilization.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
the man for it. The
He
stars
certainly did.
aligned.
And space-based reconnaissance,
Yeah.
that's a big part of that. I mean, a lot of these developments were trends that were already in play. They were almost inevitable ideas to occur to people in the national security sector, and a lot of them were launched by people in different services, different positions right after World War II, and developed under Truman. But Eisenhower in 53 and 54 jumped right into it and began to give these programs their definitive shape and architecture. He left an indelible mark upon the long-term security of the United States that way. There's absolutely no question about it.
And his calm under fire of Sputnik, he got a lot of criticism because he wasn't running around with his hair on fire. It's because he knew what it was. He knew it was a radio beacon. And he was like,
Well,
it's
there's
not.
a school of thought. This is the Machiavellian side of it. I don't know whether this is true or not, but it might have been true. I mean, given the issue of freedom of space and Open Skies proposal
Mm-hmm.
of 1955.
Yeah, Bissell.
There's a school of thought that holds that Eisenhower was actually, quite glad to see the Russians do it first, because
Okay.
that set the precedent in international law, especially given what he had up his sleeve with space-based reconnaissance, in which we were far ahead. Go on, I'll take the hit.
Launch the satellite.
Go on, do it, beat us into space.
Yeah.
That's what I want. You fools, you're playing into my hands long term. But again, sacrifice. He did take the hit.
Yeah,
and
he takes the
the
character
American
hit.
people, especially in 1960, when the Corona satellite finally succeeded, he couldn't say there isn't any missile gap, because then he'd have to reveal where the proof came from, and he couldn't do that.
Yeah,
that's one. Shut up. Suck it up, as the kids would say today, and he did.
But that's one of the things I love learning about the Cold War, is when you learn about these classified technologies and you're like, the president could have come out and just shut everyone up, and you go, but he didn't. And not only that, it was classified till after his death. And then you go, oh, that's the medal of a president. That's someone who goes, I'll take the shit smearing. You can put it on my name and go, Eisenhower doesn't care.
Yeah, a man who is normal and intelligent enough to know when to keep his mouth shut.
Well, he
as
knows.
opposed to certain people, prominent people in public life, who have a case of verbal diarrhea and
Yeah.
who never shut up because they're idiots, they're insane, they're out of control. Who am I talking about? Oh, I'm not going to say. But the contrast,
Well, it's blatant.
is it's beyond painful.
It's
It really makes you wonder whether it is too late uh,
hmm,
for the legacy of statecraft like Eisenhower's to bring this country back up to the superpower status that it has and is hanging on to, but might not have if things continue to spiral downward. That's probably about as much as I should say and as far as I should go on that subject, unless you disagree.
no. Well, I was gonna say is contrarily, not contrarily. I guess more so uniquely is we wouldn't know whether or not that level of statecraft has returned by virtue of the fact of it would remain classified for decades and decades and decades. We wouldn't actually know what someone did or didn't do. So,
Well, of course, that's right.
yeah,
That's absolutely right. And there are so many national security situations, not least of all the situation vis-a-vis Russia and China right now, with a
sure.
focus on Ukraine, where I presume there are a great many very, very classified actions in play that
Sure.
we may or may not find out about within the remaining scope of my lifetime. And that's the way it needs to be. They shouldn't tell us. I don't want to know. I shouldn't.
Yeah. Oh, I want to know, but I know the importance of me not knowing.
No, it transcends me. I have a curious mind, but with insane limits, unlike these deep state maniacs. I mean, of course, government surreptitious government activity can devolve into very nasty channels indeed.
Mhm.
I'm not going to deny it,
Sure.
uh, but to have this imbecilic reflex against, anything concentrated, anything classified, anything confidential, in its nature, is so childish as to be
It's
laughed out of the
idyllic.
room. But you can't laugh it out of the room now. I mean, you
Yeah.
try to laugh, your laughter chokes you because this could be our fate, depending
It's
on how some factors play out next year.
it's an idyllic notion that there should be no secrecy and there should be no consolidation.
Well,
Yes,
it's
there,
naive, it's utopian, it's childish.
well, that's what I mean is
Yeah,
it's not based in reality.
it's for children.
There's a
Uh,
reason why there are special access programs. There's a reason why top secret isn't even enough. There's a reason why the people working on the Manhattan Project, save a couple people at the tippy top, didn't even know what the hell they were working on. Yeah, we're producing power for what? I don't know. We're just in Tennessee doing
that
this
is
thing.
that is the principle of compartmentalization.
Well,
You saw the
exactly.
film Oppenheimer last summer, right?
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's an experience, a very interesting film. And it bears directly upon the period and the subject matter we're discussing. But the
Hmm.
issue of compartmenting in a classified program comes up repeatedly.
I've I've also had the privilege of interviewing Richard Rhodes before about making of the atomic bomb, and I feel like I got a first person class on the A bomb that I'm not sure any movie can hold. It's that's such like a snobby thing to say, but I've got to talk to Richard Rhodes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if a movie's gonna hold up. I got to talk to the guy, but in terms
Well,
of
see the film, then
okay,
talk to him.
okay,
I'm sure the film will inevitably fall short.
well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean everything does.
well, sure, that's right. But it was worth seeing.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so to look back at, let's just use the Sputnik moment. You know, that seems much more. I can see that Machiavellian twist, where not in the FDR sense of he was looking for a Pearl Harbor, but rather you have an Eisenhower going, no, let them kind of trespass on our property first.
Exactly. Set a trap. Not exactly set a trap and
Not
let
set
them
a
walk
trap, but
into it.
just let them start the game
But that's
that's
the way
inevitably going to
Lincoln.
start.
That's the way Lincoln operated. He was a
Uh-huh.
supreme master of that. Tricking the Confederates into firing the first shot at Fort Sumter. I've written lots of books on Lincoln. He was, I mean, superb when it came to moral strategy, power orchestration using deception
Hmm.
as necessary to deliver results that were spontaneously decent, idealistic, not at all a contradiction in terms,
Hmm.
very much something to be desired and striven toward in the world of adults
Hmm.
as opposed to children. You
Hmm.
don't go down the street blurting out your deepest intentions to everyone all the time. What kind of fools do these simpletons take us for? You have to keep your wits about you. Well, I'm preaching to the choir. You know these things.
But it is fascinating that we can look at these things 70, 80 years in hindsight when you go the notion of the day was Eisenhower's weak. He's letting them fly Sputnik over us. This is the end of the world. All the while, I mean, the classified shit he knew was like, not only do we have rockets, like we have Nazis working for us in the desert. That's so highly classified, so even unimaginable
Well,
for
this notion that Eisenhower was weak was part of a deception he
I
created himself.
exactly. But
And
it
Lincoln
only
did the same sort of thing in the Civil War, promulgating this famous, too oft quoted myth in the letter he wrote to Horace Greeley: "My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, is not to save or destroy." False, and I can prove it so easily. But he needed to create that deception in order to work brilliantly behind the scenes to deal out one strategic hammer blow against slavery after another. I mean, if it hadn't been his position on slavery, there would have been no Civil War. It was his election that triggered secession. Why? Because he was a free soil Republican. No more slave states. Well, that means the existing bloc would be outnumbered more and more over time. They knew that anyway. But Lincoln created the myth through which he is so widely misunderstood. Unionist first, moderate unionist, baloney. He was anti-slavery first, and he was a radical, audacious genius, who used moderation or the appearance of moderation as a tactic. Uh,
hmm,
so it is with Eisenhower being out of touch. I've just been reading a book, a compilation of memorable essays from the New Republic magazine, The Face of 5 Decades, it was called, published in 1964, 1914 to 1964, some of the most memorable pieces from the New Republic. Wonderful reading. But when you get to the Eisenhower era, these New Republic writers, one after another, just blazing away them for his sheer uh, um, incapacity, his incompetence is this out of touch, weak, drifting
hmm,
old man. He created that illusion. It was a deliberate deception, and the sacrifice he paid for it. But he made his decision. It was part of the modus operandi he selected. It gave him the maneuvering room.
hmm,
He wanted to do the audacious things behind the scenes that he did.
hmm. And in the same way, back to the subtitle of the sacrifice is that's someone who understands that in due time, his reputation will get its due, but it's not going to be in his life. He's going to be called a weakling. He's going to be called incompetent. LBJ jumped right on it, and
Oh,
Eisenhower's
yes,
weak. And it's no, he knows
yes.
what he's doing, but that's someone who understands that his role, much like as a general, where men are going to die, so you might as well minimize the number of men. He also understands that his role is to preserve the Union and to preserve Western civilization in our country, even if it means for a short while, people are going to call him weak and there's going to be a mean radio address about him. He
Well,
understood that.
I don't know if Eisenhower really did live in any confident expectation that history would vindicate him.
Okay. Yeah, but
Uh,
to me, that's all that makes it even better is if there's even no reasonable expectation, but he still did it. That's
Well, there
even
may be
better.
an expectation, but absolutely no certitude, because it depends upon the wisdom or folly of human beings decades hence,
Hmm.
whether they're perceptive enough, whether they have the right sensibilities, whether they ask the right questions, whether they look at the right sources, and some of those sources have been deliberately destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, you can't rest secure in any such expectation. I'm, as I told you, a historic preservation activist. 3 decades ago in the 1980s, I led some successful fights to save certain threatened buildings. But I told my allies, do not rest secure that we have removed the threat, forever. Mark my words, within our lifetimes, these buildings will be threatened again. And try to build in redundant forms of protection so that if line one of defense crumbles, you've got a backup, but this may crumble as well. And frankly, I'm sorry to have to say it, it's happening in my hometown, Washington, D.C. right now. Some of the greatest triumphs of local preservationists in the 80s are being swept away by D.C.'s hideous mayor. I'm taking action from afar against her. I can talk about that or not, as you like, but it illustrates.
No, yeah, go for it. No, yeah, go for it.
Well, she's a tyrant.
Yeah.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Poses as enlightened, progressive, enemy of Donald Trump and all things ignorant. Oh, she's cozying up to sleazy developers like Trump all the time. What she's all about is greed, money, and power. And she's just corrupting one program after another in the city, meant to defend things that people rightly hold dear. And the civic activists in DC right now are just totally outgunned. I mean, you can take a case to court, you may win, but the Court of Appeals will throw it out because of the nature of U.S. jurisprudence in cases like that. Forget it, you're outgunned. So what I just did, I don't know if it's going to lead to anything good or not. I said, well, if you're outgunned, go over her head. So I wrote this opinion piece for The Hill, saying it's time for Congress to revisit the DC Home Rule Act of 1973, not to diminish home rule, but to do precisely the reverse, to restore the rights of the people that are currently being trampled down by a tyrannical mayor. You've got to look, and even if it takes today's House Republicans to start holding hearings, I think they'd be up for it just because of the mischievous games they play.
Yeah.
But, they may not be around after the next election. Point is, start a process that will put her on notice that if she continues overreaching in the arrogant way she is, she may be putting the very source of her own power at risk. So she better think twice. Will this succeed? Oh, I have no idea. Probably not.
But
you try. We try, to do what we can.
Back to Eisenhower, you don't have any guarantee it will work, but that, to me, that's all the more reason of just how important is a task to you, whether it's preservation or whether it's Operation Overlord or Sputnik. Hey, you probably might never be vindicated. Who gives a shit? Let's do it anyway. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And to me, that passes the sniff test. Is you'll go, that how valuable is it? Is it your ego that you want, or is it something else? Is it something deeper? No, it's something deeper. I don't care if I ever get the credit I deserve. Well, then it's worth it.
As far as ego goes, we all have the worm in our apple. We might as well admit it. And it does feel good to believe that you were doing something noble and that you particularly have, the creativity and the skill.
Yeah.
And to an extent, there's not only nothing wrong with that, it is positively necessary for the morale.
Absolutely.
Do it. So again, there's no immaculate you know what, but it's all a matter of degree. How far does it go too far? Oh, it certainly can go too far.
Yeah, don't let it intoxicate you. No, I'm with you. You got to have the little.
I know you are, and that's why this conversation is such an unexpected pleasure.
That's right. It's you have to have the little treats where you pat yourself on the back. You can't let it go to your head. But like you said, troop morale. I mean, it feels good now. This is episode 1348. I've kind of turned it into a thing. It's kind of maturing into its own podcast. But there are a lot of nights where, to come back to me 2 years ago when you're waking up in the morning, you're exhausted. You have 4 interviews to do that day. You got to smack yourself around. And sometimes you got to be like, hey, let's go. This is going to fucking work. And my podcast is going to blow up and it's going to be so cool when I make it. You need those little ego treats sometime to go, hey, it's worth it. You got to have the little carrot in front of the, you're like, come on. The whip doesn't always work. Sometimes you got to add the little treat. Like, come here, kitty. Come here, kitty.
Times to have a party.
Yes.
Time to look forward to having a party.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You gotta. That's real power. You gotta put. I mean, in college when I was studying to get into medical school and taking genetics and biochemistry while studying for the MCAT and taking physics, and you had to have a. I would put a. I mean, my friends would ask me, they're like, "Dude, why do you get like so drunk on a Friday?" And I'd be like, "I don't even enjoy it, but
For good reason.
I go, I put that little. It's on a silver platter, and all week I'm just looking at it and I'm going, all right, I just got to get through organic chemistry today. Friday, I'm gonna drink half a bottle of rum and I'm gonna go make out with a sorority girl and then pass out in the lawn, and it's gonna be worth it. And it's that little treat, it pulls you towards it. It pulls
That's
you
the
towards it,
spirit. That's the spirit.
right? I mean, you know what I'm talking. Have you ever seen those
I know just what you're talking about.
They're those visualizations of gravity where like they'll take a bowling ball and put it on a trampoline and they go, this is gravity, and they like roll marbles around it and it pulls it towards it and it goes, gravity pulls you, bends space time. That's what I look at, little like treats and little ego boosts. I go, it's just little gravity, little black hole, just pull me towards it. And if you do it well and you don't overdo it, it can give you that little extra boost.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I would imagine somewhere in the back of Eisenhower's mind, he's probably thinking like, man, they're gonna write some great books about me one day. You gotta have that little.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He knew he was becoming a
Yeah.
major figure in history.
Yeah.
He had to hope he would succeed,
Yeah.
but he knew he was becoming a major figure in history. The sacrifice and the agony for him was, in my opinion, that decision in 1945, whether or not to throw you know who away,
Mm-hmm.
or not to just call it a day so far as heroism was concerned, and take life easy, rest on his laurels, enjoy life,
Mm.
beautiful woman, and let other people
Take,
rescue
yeah.
things. But he couldn't, you see, because in my opinion, and again, this is my judgment about his emotional makeup, and I don't think it was conscious on his part. I think it took shape in his mind during his childhood. He was not conscious of it. He had to become a great fighter, but a great fighter who would deliver his mother's fondest wish, peace. He had
Peace.
to be a guardian of peace. He'd proven his skill as a fighter in World War II.
Mm.
He had not proven he could be a guardian. Peace.
Okay.
One way to do that. And as he went through this agony, 1945 through 1948, 49, 50, God, what a story. I do not think, I could be wrong, but I do not think that he was fully conscious of the nature of this emotional turmoil, conscious of the real nature of the anger that you can feel just seething through him and working its way out onto the pages of his diary, his letters, everything. It was others. You know who I'm talking about. Bill Robinson, Lucius Clay, Thomas Dewey, who kept prodding him toward the time of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a brilliant synthesis, though. And in one way, it's almost like, in one way, he almost proved to himself that, his abusive thought that he could dole out the fight of a life against an abusive father who would come out with the switch, right? I mean, the largest amphibious invasion in human history. He showed that he can throw a punch. And then it's, but can you also please mom? Can you bring peace? And that's,
Uh-huh.
I
I
mean, he right. Wasn't NORAD built under? Wasn't Cheyenne Mountain? Wasn't that constructed under Eisenhower? A copper shell under a granite mountain. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a testament to peace.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
What's really interesting, among so many interesting things, is the paradoxical or not so paradoxical use of nuclear brinkmanship and bluffing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thesis of Evan Thomas's book, Ike's Bluff.
Yeah.
Let me be the first to pay tribute when it's due to other authors. That was a
Sure.
brilliant book, absolutely brilliant. Anyone who seeks to understand, the complexities of Eisenhower has to read it. And I hope I cited enough of it to give credit where it was due and to synthesize it into the story that I was telling, because it's an integral part of it. And it explains so much, not all, but so much of why he kept on John Foster Dulles as a
Mhm.
Secretary of State when he could have done so much better. He paid a price for that, but Foster had those crafty
Had
uses.
some
Dulles didn't
skills.
understand it, but I did.
Yeah.
He should
Yeah.
have fired Allen Dulles many times over,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Foster.
Yeah. But in terms of the hidden hand president, I mean, yeah, you gotta have, Ike knew the value of these kind of slithery, intelligence operatives. He understood, but he also knew the implications of not. It's like, hey, you know, it might feel good to say we don't do spycraft, we do armies by day, but he just
No, no,
oversaw.
that's something an
Yeah,
idiot like
no,
Woodrow
he
Wilson
wasn't he
would
wasn't
say.
intoxicated with that bullshit. He was like, yeah, I know what that is. That's millions dead.
Oh
You know,
no, no, he's a poker player and a
yeah,
fighter, not an
yeah.
idiot like Woodrow Wilson. Well, never mind.
No, no,
Uh,
yeah, no, 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 no.
that's
Wilson was an
right.
idiot. He was a romantic idiot. Eisenhower knew. He's like, you got Dulles and Angleton in your corner. Put them to use. They're
Yeah.
snakes, but they're your snakes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. That's right. What's really interesting is if you look at Ice Cabinet, Dulles, Foster Dulles, and Herbert Brownell, are such polar opposites in that sense. Foster Dulles was such a goddamn mess, whereas Brownell, oh, what an elegant
Mm.
man. But Ike had been about to choose John McCloy as his Secretary of State upon the recommendation of Lucius Clay, and it was Brownell who suggested Foster Dulles. They both worked for Thomas Dewey.
Hmm.
Brownell who suggested Foster Dulles. Very strange,
Hmm.
or not so strange.
In terms of the nuclear brinkmanship, it is kind of interesting when you bring up his mom. You think of what's the other thing he's known for, the attempt at least, Atoms for Peace. So it is this kind of beautiful yin and yang of like the right hook where he breaks your jaw and knocks your teeth out, but then he picks you up and puts some ice on your jaw. You can
There's some
see
modus
he's
operandi
trying.
in that too. The deliberate behavior of a Machiavellian schemer who plays
Mm,
mind games, who deliberately keeps people off balance on principle. Don't let them know,
yeah.
what to expect, except for the great mass of susceptibles who are the recipients of your deception as to being old, befuddled, and out of touch. But the players in the game, uh, make sure they know your mind is razor sharp, so
Mm,
razor sharp that if they think they can outguess your next move and the move after that, oh, how wrong they are, and how sweet it is to prove it to them again and again and again. Don't you dare
yeah. The old man
take
still
that
got
sort of
it.
thing for granted with me. I'm the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, he really was. Yeah, he really was. Yeah. Let them know, like, don't fuck around because he's gonna get you. I think there's
But
a
on the other hand, the degree to which he did keep some very incompetent people in positions of trust, especially Alan Dulles, but Lewis Strauss and a number of others who should have been and replaced with better people. That's part of an emotional side of Eisenhower that I also write about. It's a hint of deeper conflictedness. I have my theories about it. They may be right or may be wrong, but he did keep on some people, bunch of them who really should have been fired. It's one of the major shortcomings of his presidency.
let's let's play devil's advocate and go, was that even further uh evidence of his Machiavellian tendencies? Do you keep
I'm
on
not
some people
sure
who are
it was. In
incompetent?
the case of Alan Dulles, I mean, the man was so demonstrably incompetent. And Eisenhower was warned, again and again, especially by General James Doolittle in 1954. Agencies barely led, badly led, so on and so forth. You look at the Suez Crisis of 1956, when Dulles's information is proven wrong again, doesn't know what he's talking about, and you keep him on. No, no, no. There's something else. I don't claim to fully understand it. I advance a theory in one part of the book that both of the Dulles brothers, Foster and Allen, were well, bad boys, you know,
Oh,
who you know, enjoyed getting away with things that other
yeah.
people couldn't. And there was a side of Ike, you know, it was part of the rebelliousness that he had to indulge in, unconsciously or not, to avoid becoming a mama's boy. You know, you love
Mm.
Mother Ida, but you don't want to be a prissy little.
You don't want to be a bitch. You don't want to be a schoolboy. You gotta show that you can go out and you can get dirty too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a
Okay.
lot of that misbehavior at West Point.
Well, I was about to say, yeah, right. I mean, dancing with the girls and sneaking out just for the sake of sneaking out and
He
going and
loved being a bad boy, and
that's
he
what I
had
mean.
to for at least a part of his sanity. We can understand that.
Well,
If
also as a guy, you gotta have street cred with the other guys. You can't be a total, mama's boy. You gotta,
right,
part of drinking underage is to show that, you're not a pussy. You know,
right,
you're
right.
17, I'll drink too. I'll smoke some cigarettes, even if you don't want to.
Takes us back to Abe Lincoln, the wrestler.
Yeah, that's what I
You
mean.
know, I mean, they're I've written on Lincoln and Eisenhower, comparing them. They're very different in obvious ways, but the similarities are very, very interesting. I don't want to get off on that tangent because we'll talk for another hour.
No, it's fine, and we'll wrap this up so as not to stuff too much into an hour. But that's an interesting idea of he can't be too much of a mama's boy, and so on West Point it manifests as drinking and dancing. But once you get to POTUS, it manifests as, like, I don't know, letting the CIA run roughshod in South America. You don't want to be the one guy saying, I don't think we should drink on a school night. Like, you don't want to be that guy, right? You want to show that you're one of the guys. It's
That
different when you're, commander in chief.
He learned pretty quickly, though, how badly off base he had been on that, and I think he tried to make up for it in the Suez Crisis with
Hmm.
Egypt, Nasser.
Hmm.
Um,
And kind of, yeah, giving them. We also later realized that the CIA was lying to him. What's the famous quote when they're like, "How many men did we lose?" And they tell him, they're like, "We lost one operative," and he's like, "Incredible!" But the reality is they had lost like 700 operatives.
Incredible, meaning not credible.
Yeah, exactly, As in, like, you're lying through your teeth. That is a fact. I guess on my we'll wrap it up with this. Is I think maybe my favorite anecdote from all of it is when he's being, I guess, is he being interviewed or is he being chastised by talking about, some general in some ancient battle, and he's nodding, and then he leaves, and he was like, he was wrong. It wasn't Carthage, it was the Punic Wars, it wasn't this,
Right,
and it wasn't
right,
this.
right,
They're like, why
right.
didn't you correct him? And he was like, don't bruise the ego. He enjoyed lecturing me. Just let him have it, and I'll use
Exactly.
this. Yeah, to me, that's Ike. It just in a nutshell.
Well, the psychology of bluffing at poker, which he learned from that, itinerant trapper Bob Davis,
Hmm.
the principles of psychology and applied psychology that he learned in Panama from Fox Connor. There were so many elements in that unfolding story. His life is really, I think, quite fascinating, and I'm so glad that you liked the book.
I adored it. It was incredible. I can't fake. One of the reasons why I have to just be so, like, freewheeling with the show is I can't fake, and I can't be a news anchor and welcome on to the show. Tell me about your. If I don't like it, we're just not going to do the show. I'm not going to have you on.
Well,
Right?
certainly of all the books I've written, this one was the most fun
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
A certain kind of fun. Now, given what I can see so clearly about you and your mind and the way it works, and how interesting this conversation has been to me, I really wonder whether what you would think of that short book on spirituality for the independent thinker that I wrote. It's a completely different kind of book.
You said it's a difficult one.
Well, it can be, except, for people with a certain set of interests and sensibilities. I don't know. I don't know you well enough to know whether you would say, well, all right, thanks, but, or,
I'll take a crack at it.
well, I would be curious to find out what you think. And if it's not your kind of book, no hard feelings, no hard feelings. I'm just genuinely curious because I had a lot of fun of a very different kind.
This was fun,
That
man.
book. ultimate questions
Uh,
and the emotions of what we call spirituality. I don't like organized religion. I don't like, tyrannical myth making. I refuse to belong to any organized religion. But I have a deep sense of the strangeness of this existence we lead, the miraculous quality of it. I say in the book, in the after word, it was particularly as the emotional rebound from near death experience with cancer and radical surgery. It's so trite. You realize every day is a gift. Well, yes, we know. But in my case, I had this, how can I describe it? This ghostly sense of being upheld by stupendous power,
mm,
every instant. I mean, this cosmos that we know through our everyday experience and take for granted as in terms of matter of factness, because we bloody well better if we
mm,
intend to stay sane. But if
sure.
you step back from it and take less for granted and ask certain questions, like, for instance, about the metaphysical mystery of time in itself.
Mm.
What happened to the Richard Striner who just said that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We're melting backward and melting forward. It all seems so tangible and hard edged to us, but it isn't.
It's not. There's
It
nothing here.
isn't. It's ghostly. That's the kind of book it is, except it's placed into a systematic scheme of exploration and conclusions with reference to history of philosophy and history of science,
Mm.
particularly cutting edge physics these days, quantum, string.
Quantum mechanics. Oh yeah, no. The deeper down you go, the less sense any of this shit makes.
Well, the less in some ways, I mean,
In the
given
traditional 1+1 is 2, what goes up must, in less of a Newtonian physics way.
given the nature of the mental equipment that we have,
That
and
too.
that's simply a nature of biology and evolution. There are our minds can go just so far and no farther, except we can ask questions that sketch the outlines of mysteries that haunt us. We can do that all right, and in the process of doing it, perhaps begin to realize some profounder things. You see what you think.
Hmm.
If you
No,
want, if you want.
no, I absolutely will. That is up my alley. I've done a lot of episodes about just that, of how.
Have you?
Oh yeah, I think one of my favorite ones, Dr. Eben Alexander, author of Proof of Heaven. He's a Harvard brain surgeon. I mean, it's almost a meme how he had, accredited a Harvard brain surgeon. He was like a devout atheist, and he fell into a coma in, I think, 2007 from like a meningital infection, and he was essentially dead for like 7 days in the hospital. Has
Mhm.
complete recollection of all of it. Comes back, and
Yeah.
he was like, I experienced heaven. And he just kind of goes into explain of how, this world we are in, this reality we are in, there are aspects of it that you can't put on a scale, that
Well,
you
of course
cannot.
not. And he clearly experienced something.
Yes.
No doubt of that.
Uh,
Calling it heaven or not, I
he goes
would.
he goes into that too, of as a placeholder. That's what it is.
All right, fair enough. But so far as being an atheist, I would no more be that than I would be a theist.
No,
Uh,
same.
Power. Well, of course there is. Why does anything exist instead of nothing? There's obviously a higher power. We just don't know what it is, and we don't know what it wants. It would be nice if we did, but we don't.
To
But
be
there is some reason why anything exists at all. There is some sovereignty we cannot comprehend that commands being instead of endless nothingness. That's as far as we can go for
well,
now.
that's the no, to be an atheist is as insufferable as to be a religious fundamentalist. You're
Oh, it
both
is stupid.
they're both assholes claiming they know what's going on. You have no idea. This entire thing is just a
Oh, it's so
smorgasbord of what's
ridiculous.
going on. Yeah,
Just
I know what happened. No,
preposterous.
you don't. No, you don't. You're
That's right.
barely evolved from an ape. You have
That's
no idea
right.
what's going on.
That's
We've
exactly
had
right.
we've had a heavier than air flight for a little over 12 decades. Like, sit down, shut up. It's so, but I'm with you on that, and but that's one of the most beautiful things about
I
medicine.
thought you might be.
It's
I thought you might be. I'm glad to see that my instincts serve me well.
it did. One of the most beautiful things about meditation is to just sit quietly. And that is not even in any no method. Don't get lost in the methods of just sit there quietly and let your mind come to a standstill and just look around. Inevitably, the one conclusion you reach that you can't break down or divide any further is what you said. Something is going on.
Yes.
There is, period.
Yes.
There isn't nothing.
Exactly.
That's something to examine.
And in technical philosophy, the term for that study is ontology.
Oh, yeah.
Ontology, the study
Yeah.
of being as a problem.
Ultimate reality.
Being and becoming.
Yeah. What is?
Yes.
Don't get lost in the language of it. Don't divide it into equations. Just the way I describe it is this: if you ever fall asleep on a plane or in a car ride, you ever wake up when your eyes are still closed, and you just wake up, and all of a sudden, I am. You go, huh?
Yes.
Here I am.
Yes.
That is what this is. Is if you just stay still. Even now, listening to this podcast, whoever's listening to this, just get real still. There isn't nothing. There is not nothing.
One of the fun questions or tricks that I use toward the very end of the book is to cite Immanuel Kant's dualism between noumena, things in themselves, and phenomena, appearances. And all we can really know, he says, are appearances. We can infer things in themselves, but we cannot know them. All we know are appearances. Even our own sense of selfhood, says Kant, is appearance, to which I put this question: if it's an appearance, what sees it? What sees the appearance? Answer me that, Herr Doctor. What is
the observer is not the observed is one of my favorite quotes. The observer is not the observed. If you are the voice inside your head, no, you're not. Who's listening to it? What is?
A physicist named Henry Stapp, S-T-A-P-P, has been doing extremely interesting work in quantum physics and the nature of mind as a quantum state. I write about that in the book too, but I'm probably wearing down your listeners and you.
Yeah.
But let's talk again. Definitely.
Sure. Yeah. No. We'll leave it on that. We'll you have my email on my phone. Let's follow up with that. I'll make a note of it right now so I don't forget. I will grab that book.
Your email?
What? No, we emailed earlier.
Did we?
Yeah. I asked you about pushing the show back 30 minutes. Yeah, you had got back to me. Well, regardless, I have your email, so I'll email you, and we'll put it together. And obviously, we have each other's phone numbers. Let's do it. I'm interested in it. I'll bite. I'll take the challenge.
All right.
I'll take the challenge. And I don't yet. In terms of what you said though about the wearing down the listeners. One thing I have learned, if I've learned, much like philosophy, the only thing you can know is that there is. If I've boiled down any laws from the podcast, I will tell you this: never cede anything to the listener. They are a rabid, feral animal. Don't look at them. Don't be worried about their monsters. They're in the comments. Never. I don't care if Eisenhower himself is watching this podcast or if it's a drunk homeless man. Never cede control to the crowd. They are beasts. Just never, never.
Wouldn't say that, but you have learned, I suppose, somehow that enough of them do find it interesting.
Yeah.
To make it a viable activity over time.
Yeah. Well, no, it's I think it was Stan Lee that said, when he tried to write what he thought people would enjoy, he wrote shit. When he decided to write what he loved, that's when he created the entire, Marvel universe.
Well, as I said, I wrote the Eisenhower book like that. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have fun. But one thing I, as a writer, always try to do is to step back and try to put myself into the position of the reader. I mean, if you're going to do good writing, you have to do that. Get out of yourself enough to say, well, it sounds good to me, but reality check now. step back and be someone who's coming at it cold. Now, what do you think?
I'll,
Smart. Now, what do you?
I'll every once in a while I'll do that with a show. I'll go
Yeah.
back 2 years. I'll find a show. Go back 2 years in time, and you have a solid 6 or 7 beers. Wipe your memory and just listen to it. And you go, "Who's this Tommy guy?" And I'll listen to it. And I always give it a passing grade. I'm like, "There's room to improve," but I enjoyed that. I just try to wipe my memory, and I go, let's come at it cold." And I'm like, you know what? It's doable. It's listenable.
Well, I'll tell you, over 30 years, I loved classroom teaching. It was fun for me. I knew it was fun for the students because I could see it in their faces.
Yeah.
Okay. It was immediate. I saw my listeners and saw their faces, and I knew it was good.
That is a little more difficult with this. Is
Oh, yes, yes, it
I
is.
have no idea. I see a number
Well,
on a screen that says 1,000 people saw it. I don't see anyone.
I think what you're doing is absolutely cool.
Thank you.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's smart. I think it is just terrific. And I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. Well, with that,
Thank
let's wrap this one up. Mr. Striner, thank you, sir. Guys, the link to the book is in the description. Please go grab it. It's a good one. And I'll send you an email. Let's get it on the books to do the book about spirituality. And thank you for your time, man. I enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you for your time. It's
Yes,
been
sir.
wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much, guys. Thank you for watching. Guys, go grab the book, support the good.